Soo-Min had spent her entire life surrounded by luxury. Private schools, private drivers, private security, private prisons disguised as mansions. From the outside, she looked like the luckiest woman in South Korea. Inside, she was a prisoner. And tonight, her father was about to seal her fate forever. The crystal chandeliers above the ballroom glittered as hundreds of powerful guests gathered. Politicians, business tycoons, crime bosses. Every seat was filled. Every smile was fake. At the center stood Han Jae-hyun, the most feared mafia boss in Korea. And beside him stood his daughter, Soo-Min, dressed in white, silent, beautiful, broken. The crowd applauded as her father raised a champagne glass. "My daughter will marry the son of the Kong family." The room erupted with cheers. Soo-Min's heart sank. She stared at the man she was supposed to marry. A stranger, a criminal, a future she never chose. Then she looked at her father. His eyes said everything. "You belong to me. You always will." And in that moment, Soo-Min made a decision. She would rather disappear than surrender. 3 hours later, rain poured across Seoul. Security cameras rotated across the mansion grounds. Guards patrolled every entrance. But none of them expected the boss's daughter to run. Soo-Min moved through hidden service corridors she had memorized as a child. Her heart hammered. One mistake would end everything. She reached a garage, opened a storage locker. Inside was a backpack, a fake passport, cash, a plane ticket, her emergency escape plan. Years of preparation. Tonight was finally the night. As she slipped into a waiting taxi, tears filled her eyes. Not from fear, from freedom. For the first time in 25 years, she belonged to herself. 24 hours later, she stepped out of an airport thousands of miles away. Africa, a new continent, a new beginning, a new identity. No bodyguards, no mafia, no father, only freedom. Or so she thought. Far away in Seoul, Han Jae-hyun stared at an empty bedroom. His daughter's bedroom. A guard trembled before him. "We can't find her." Silence. Then, crash. A priceless vase shattered against the wall. The guard nearly collapsed. "Find my daughter." His voice was calm, which was far more terrifying than shouting. "Search every airport, every border, every country. Bring her home." His eyes darkened. "By force if necessary." Months passed. For the first time in her life, Soo-Min lived like an ordinary woman. A small apartment, a simple job, simple clothes, simple happiness. She worked at a cultural exchange center teaching Korean language classes. Nobody knew who she really was. Nobody bowed. Nobody feared her. Nobody watched her. She loved it. One afternoon, while carrying books across a busy street, she accidentally collided with a tall man. The books exploded everywhere. "Oh." She immediately crouched. "So sorry." The man laughed. "No, that's my fault." Their eyes met, and for a second, time stopped. His name was Malik Adeyemi, 30 years old, successful entrepreneur, self-made businessman, known for helping young entrepreneurs build careers. Unlike the men from her past, his confidence wasn't dangerous. It was comforting. He helped gather her books. Their fingers touched. A tiny spark. Both noticed. Neither said anything. Over the following weeks, they kept running into each other. At coffee shops, at community events, at local markets, almost as if fate kept arranging meetings. Each encounter lasted longer than the last. Friendship slowly formed. Then trust. Then something deeper. Something neither wanted to name. One evening, Malik invited her to a community celebration. Music filled the air. Lights decorated the night sky. Families danced. Children laughed. Life. Real life. Not the artificial world she'd known in Korea. Soo-Min smiled more that night than she had in years. Malik watched her and realized something. He was falling in love. Hard. Dangerously hard. Weeks later, rain trapped them beneath a small shop awning. The city glowed under streetlights. Neither spoke for a moment. Then Malik finally asked, "What are you running from?" Soo-Min froze. Her heart nearly stopped. "What do you mean?" He smiled softly. "You always look over your shoulder." Silence. A dangerous silence. Because he was right. She always looked behind her. Always. Waiting for the past. Waiting for her father. Waiting for the men who might one day find her. "I just had a difficult life." Malik nodded. But he knew there was more. Much more. That night, he almost kissed her. Almost. Their faces inches apart. The world disappeared. Then her phone buzzed. A private number. Her blood ran cold. The moment shattered. Because she already knew. The past had finally found her. Across the city, a Korean man lowered a camera. His mission was complete. He had found Soo-Min, the missing Mafia princess. He sent the photo. Straight to Seoul. Straight to her father. Minutes later, Han Jae-hyun stared at the image. His daughter. Alive. Smiling. Standing beside another man. A dangerous silence filled the room. Then, bring her back. The order was immediate. 5 elite enforcers boarded a flight. Meanwhile, Soo-Min felt it. The danger. The tension. The invisible eyes. One night, she noticed a black vehicle parked outside her apartment. The next day, she saw the same man twice. Then 3 times. Then she knew. They were here. Everything collapsed when Malik discovered the truth. One of the Mafia hunters approached him. Deliberately. Carefully. And handed him a photograph. A photograph of Soo-Min. Standing beside one of Korea's most notorious crime bosses. Her father. Malik stared. Confused. Then shocked. Then devastated. Because the woman he loved had lied about everything. That evening he confronted her. Who are you? Soo-Min immediately knew. Her face turned pale. Malik, tell me the truth. Tears filled her eyes. For the first time. No more lies. No more hiding. I'm Soo-Min. She whispered. My father is a Mafia boss. The words felt poisonous. Malik stepped back. The woman he loved suddenly felt like a stranger. You lied every day. I was afraid. Of me? No. Her voice broke. Of losing you. But the damage was done. Malik walked away. And Soo-Min's heart shattered. 2 nights later, the hunters struck. Soo-Min returned home. The apartment door was open. Her blood froze. Too late. Men emerged from every corner. She fought. Hard. Years of training exploded into action. But there were too many. She was dragged toward a waiting vehicle. Kicking. Screaming. Desperate. And nobody came. Nobody except Malik. He had been driving nearby. Still angry. Still heartbroken. Still in love. He saw the struggle. Saw her terror. And everything became clear. She hadn't been running from him. She had been running for her life. Without hesitation, he rammed his vehicle into the kidnapper's SUV. Metal exploded. Chaos erupted. The street became a battlefield. Together they escaped into the night. But now there was no turning back. The Mafia knew exactly where she was. The hunters tracked them to an abandoned coastal property. There, father and daughter finally faced each other. For the first time in years, Han Jae-hyun arrived personally. The most feared man in Korea. And yet, he looked tired. Older. Lonelier. My daughter. His voice softened. Come home. No. The answer came immediately. His expression tightened. You belong with your family. No. Tears filled her eyes. I belong to myself. Years of pain exploded. Years of control. Years of fear. Years of manipulation. Everything finally surfaced. I spent my whole life trying to make you proud. Her voice trembled. But you never saw me. The old Mafia boss stood frozen. Because deep down, he knew she was right. Then came the moment that changed everything. Soo-Min stepped behind Malik. Not behind bodyguards. Not behind wealth. Not behind power. Behind love. The life she chose. The man she chose. For the first time, Han Jae-hyun understood. His daughter wasn't running away from him. She was running toward her own future. Slowly, he lowered his weapon. Then he gave the order nobody expected. Stand down. His men froze. What? Stand down. The hunters obeyed. The war was over. 6 months later, the world looked different. Peaceful. Bright. Free. Soo-Min walked beside Malik through a seaside market. Laughing. Relaxed. Happy. No guards. No hunters. No fear. Malik stopped walking, reached into his pocket, and dropped to one knee. Soo-Min gasped, tears instantly filling her eyes. The crowd watched, smiling, cheering, waiting. You crossed an ocean to find freedom, Malik said softly. And somehow, he smiled. You found me. Soo-Min cried. Actually cried. Because for the first time in her life, nobody was choosing her future. She was. Will you marry me? Through tears. She laughed. She nodded, and whispered the word she had waited her entire life to say. Yes. As the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, Soo-Min looked toward the future. No longer a Mafia princess. No longer a fugitive. No longer a prisoner. Just a woman who finally found love. And a place to call home.